I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment by it. I didn't really want to talk about it because I thought it was awkward, not only for me, but for others. And so I thought it was best just not to talk about it,
Mm,
just to kind of hide it, just pretend like it wasn't happening.
yeah.
There were times where, I would stay home because I didn't want to go out and see people.
Mm.
And
Hey, Gretchen.
hey, Beulah,
How are you?
I'm good.
Well, welcome to Navigating Life podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited to
Absolutely.
be here.
Thank you for being here. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. I grew up in a small town in East Texas. My mom was a teacher, my dad was a realtor. We were just normal people living a simple life and a wonderful life growing up. I grew up in a Christian home, so I grew up going to church, and I married my husband Gary right out of college, and we have three grown children. And we've lived several places around the country, and it was just an adventure, and we've had a great journey.
Yes, amazing. So I know you've been through some difficulty, but it's a long journey. So would you mind sharing that with us on how that journey looked like and what was the challenging phase
Yeah,
that you've been experiencing or living with?
yeah. The struggle that I've diagnosed with alopecia areata, I've found a bald spot, and I probably, since then, I don't think I've ever gone without having at least one bald spot. There have been three times in my adult life when I've lost all of my hair or most of my hair, enough to where I needed to wear a wig or
Mm,
hats. Sometimes I would wear hats or um, bandanas or, some head coverings. But now I'm wearing a wig.
mm,
Um, and it's just been a real long journey
yeah,
of hills and valleys
yeah,
all along the way.
yes.
So I guess it's just been in recent years that I've been able to share more about it.
Mm,
I felt a lot of shame and embarrassment by it. I didn't really want to talk about it because I thought it was awkward, not only for me, but for others. And so I thought it was best just not to talk about it, just to kind of hide it, just pretend like it wasn't happening.
yeah,
There were times where, I would stay home because I didn't want to go out and see people.
mm,
But I really didn't want it to change my family
mm,
or hinder our lives in a big way. So, I tried really hard to, just get up and keep going,
yeah,
and I wanted to live life to the fullest. I didn't want to, for my kids for sure,
yeah,
to keep them at home and um, kind of hide from
yeah,
the world.
yeah,
So I wanted to keep going. And so I just, it's been, like I said, a long journey.
yeah,
I'm thankful for friends, that have along the way been an encouragement to me
yeah,
in that. But my faith has been a big part of that as
yeah,
well. It's just given me strength and comfort
yeah,
and determination, to just keep going and to honor God along the way.
yeah, yeah.
So,
Yeah, I'm sorry. I know it's not like, a small part of your life, but it's been a long, would you mind sharing like how long has it been?
so yeah, it's been over 40 years.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I kind of had an epiphany about that a couple of years ago. I was like, wow, I've had this struggle for a long
Yeah.
time, and it sort of made me check myself, like, how am I
Mm,
doing in this,
yeah.
And um, I was recently, actually just in the fall, that I was really encouraged by a couple of people. One was a young man on The Voice that had alopecia, and he had lost all of his hair when he was in
Mm,
high school.
mm,
So I can't imagine how
yeah.
hard that might have been.
Yeah.
But he was so open and honest about it, and it just sort of began to break that barrier down even for me now after this long.
Yeah.
Another young lady on Facebook that um, she makes light of it in ways, like I'll get up and ask my husband, should I be blonde today or should I be brunette? And I just thought that was so cute, and I thought I just need to be honest,
Yeah.
about it. And so, I mean, often I will, if someone says, "Wow, your hair's so pretty," I'll be like, "Thank you. It's a wig." And I'll just go ahead and tell them because I feel like I don't want I I want to be authentic,
Yeah.
and I don't want to act like I'm something I'm not,
Yeah.
and so I try to just be honest about it, and that helps me to
Yes.
break that awkwardness,
Yes.
that I sometimes feel about it.
Yeah. And I definitely feel like, it inspires others, right? Like, how that other people inspired you to gave you that courage
Mhm.
to be honest with yourself and also
Right.
be willing to share your
Yeah.
story. And that is the whole point, right, of
Yeah.
this podcast is to share stories and to show people that, this is my struggle
Mhm.
and I want to be authentic and honest and this is how you've navigated it,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I'm very grateful that you're here. I know it's not easy,
Right.
right? I know we were talking about insecurities.
Mhm.
So could you tell us a little bit about how your insecurities looked along this journey? Because I know it started when you were 13,
Right.
right? So you were a teenager
Mhm.
in your formative years. So how did it look like, as a teenager, as an adult, as a
Mhm.
mom, and now, like, how did that, your insecurities kind of, you know, play out and on
Yeah.
this journey?
So early on, um, when I was first diagnosed with alopecia, we were told that it was related to stress.
Mm,
And so I immediately began to think things like, well, I can't handle things, I'm not strong enough. I'm weak, So I am a worrier, so I have really struggled with that throughout my life. I think that hearing that sort of almost made it worse. Like I
mm,
almost became more of a worrier because
mm,
of that. But at the same time, I can't control what my body does. And so it's been really frustrating in
yeah.
that aspect. Um, I always felt a lot of embarrassment
Mm,
and, trying to hide the spots so that no one would say, "Oh, you have a bald spot,"
yeah.
That did happen a few times, and it's extremely embarrassing, and so then there's shame involved, But just going on through, I remember when I first lost like my hair, like where I was bald enough to need to wear,
Mhm.
head coverings. Like, I would wear them around the house, and then sometimes I would take them off because they bothered me. And so a young lady next door knocked on the door, and she and I didn't have my head covering on, and I forgot about it. But when she left, I was just mortified, but then she thought I was sick.
Mhm.
She went home and asked her mom if I had cancer,
Mhm.
and so that has been something that I've been so grateful for,
Mm.
that I do not feel sick. I feel shame and embarrassment and insecure, but I'm not physically sick.
Yeah.
And so I've just told God so many times how thankful I am to Him for how I feel good.
Yeah.
And that's been such a big blessing as I've raised my family,
Yeah.
to not feel physically ill
Yeah.
often. Um, you know, it's never fun to look in the mirror. I wake up in the morning and it's it's tough,
Yeah.
So that's hard, and it's hard every day.
Yeah.
That doesn't get easier, but thankfully, I have a family that loves me and friends that I've been able to be really honest with.
Mm.
And, I'm so thankful for the wigs, and they're so much better now than they were when I first started wearing them, so it's so nice, and they're easier to get. Now they're they're hard in some ways now because COVID really set them back,
Yeah.
and so it can take like 6 months to get one. So
Wow.
that was kind of a frustration.
Yeah.
When my son was getting married, I went in to order a wig, and they couldn't get it in time for the wedding. And I thought I had given plenty of time, months in advance. And so I had to wear, my older wig for the wedding, but it was okay.
Yeah.
The stylist fixed it up for me, and my
Mhm.
daughter worked on it a little, and, I felt confident and good.
Yeah.
So that was good.
You did. You looked beautiful.
Well, thank you.
Remember the pictures, you were amazing.
It was a really fun time.
Yeah.
So,
But, I love what you said about being grateful, that you were not physically sick, because I know that alopecia areata,
mhm.
it's a autoimmune
Yes,
condition,
yes.
right? And so that, looking at the brighter side, looking at the positive, I feel like that really is an amazing tip when we're going through tough times, right?
Mhm.
If we focus on the negative, it will affect us
Yes.
mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, our life. Like you were saying, you were able to live an abundant,
Mhm.
like really full life, and not that the struggle hinder your life,
Mhm.
right? This is just a part of a struggle of your life, but it's not your life, right?
Right.
And that's why we're sharing these stories. Is how can you still have an amazing life
Mhm.
and looking at the bright side,
Yeah.
being grateful.
Right.
I know you talked about, the people you've surrounded with that have helped you to come to this place right now
Mhm.
for you to be like, it's okay. I'm okay. I want to share my story.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So, would you share with us a little bit about, how did it affect, do you think it affected you mentally? You know?
Yes, I mean, the thing about this disease is that a stressful situation might happen. Like one time when I lost my hair was when my father passed away,
Hmm.
which I thought I handled pretty well. I mean, he had lived a full life. But anytime you lose someone, it's hard.
Yeah.
And so, I lost most of my hair after that. The hard part is that, you have the hair loss to deal with, but then when you look in the mirror, you remember why you lost the hair. And
Mhm.
so it almost triggers the hard thing again as well. So
Yeah.
it's sort of just a cycle
Yeah.
that is really hard to get out of,
Yeah.
and so it's just a constant reminder of hard things.
Yeah.
And so that's been something that, what, again, my faith has really helped me
Mhm.
with. I know that my dad's in heaven
Yeah.
with Jesus, and, my faith and my trust in God has, helped me to be, I wouldn't say content with that, but, just knowing that someday I'm going to be with him
Yeah.
again. And so I know that, yet it also still, seeing, when you look in the mirror and you see and you're reminded
Yeah.
on a daily basis that you don't have hair, you can also trigger that reminder of what caused you to lose your hair.
Yeah.
And I get frustrated with that because I don't feel like I handle things, um, less, I don't know how to say it, like less better
Mhm.
than anyone else. So sometimes I'll compare myself,
Yeah.
like, well, why is this happening to me, but
Mhm.
not to other people who, like I didn't like completely fall apart where I couldn't get out of bed every day. And I still got up and went to work, and I took care of my
Yeah.
kids, and life went on. And yes, I was hurting inside,
Yeah.
but I knew that I still had responsibilities to my family,
Yeah.
and to my work. And so that's frustrating at times to think, and yet I know comparison is not healthy.
Yes.
So, I try to just remember, this is how God made me. And when He made me, He knew I would have this struggle. He knew I would have this limitation. But He also gives me everything I need to flourish in
Yeah.
this life. So I
Yeah.
just keep trying to trust in that and
Yeah.
trust in Him.
Yes,
So,
that's a great way to, see, because, that's like reframing, right? It's like, how do you look at this situation? You could, have a victim mentality,
Mhm.
or you could have an overcomer
Yes.
mentality, right? And how do you overcome? Like,
Right.
it's not easy. We're definitely not saying, like, it's easy, right? It's
No,
hard.
it's hard.
And but
It's really hard.
how do you take one day at a time and look at the positive, look at the blessings, right, of your family
Mhm.
and what you're doing with your life. Let's talk about, were you ever like depressed in this journey? Do you think, I know you said that, it really didn't affect you, like, you were able to still go
Right.
about your life,
Yeah.
but would
Yeah.
you say that, I know, the times we live in, social media,
Mhm.
right? Like this perfectionism,
Yeah.
like we all want to look our best,
Mhm.
show our best to the world. Um, but how do we model this honesty that it's okay, I'm struggling, I'm not perfect, but how do I go about this? So, would you mind talking about
Yeah.
that a little bit?
I mean, to touch on the first part of what you were saying about being depressed, I think I have been depressed and I do still get depressed at times. It's not an overwhelming
Yeah.
like that takes over, but it does come out for me in anger. And I usually vent that anger towards my family
Mm,
because we can
mm,
we can be mad at them, and they have to deal with it, right?
yeah.
And so I hate that,
Yeah.
because I remember hearing one time, we're the hardest on our closest
Yeah.
family and friends. And so, I have struggled with, I think, with just like anger, and then I guess, for lack of a better word, just crankiness, like just feeling irritable
Mhm.
because, I have this.
Yeah.
And so it would come out towards the people I love the most.
Yeah.
And so I hate that, and yet I know, in that my kids have learned to overcome too.
Mm,
I was at my son's at Christmas and I was doing my makeup in the bathroom, and usually I wear a beanie or a bandana. And I was standing there with my daughter. We had the door open, and I had taken it off because, when you're putting it up the
mm,
top, it's hard. So I was trying to put the makeup on the top, and he walked past and he turned around and he came back and he gave me a hug.
mm.
And it reminded me that, he just loves me
Yeah.
anyway and he doesn't care.
Yeah.
It was hardest on him, I think, early on, because I remember getting my first wig, and when I walked in the house, he just ran and jumped on the couch and
Yeah.
like hit his face. It
Mhm.
was really hard to see me because I looked
Yeah.
different, and he was like 6 or 7, when that happened. So it's changed our family
Yeah.
in ways that I hadn't really realized.
Yeah.
And I don't think that it has hurt them in so many ways that their life has been hindered by
Yeah.
it, that their growth was stunted or anything, because they're fabulous, well-adjusted adults,
Yeah.
living life to the full right
Yeah.
now. And so I feel really good about it, but I do know, looking back, that it affected them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but again, just modeling that, trying to overcome
Yeah.
hard things in life
Yes.
and being able to live life to the fullest, whether we have struggles or
Yeah.
not.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Gretchen, would you share with us what motivates you in life?
Yeah, so I am really competitive. I played college basketball back in the day when a 5'3" girl could do that. But so I love a challenge, and so that's really what motivates me.
Yeah.
Having things to do.
Yeah, competitive. I'm competitive, so I totally, get it. Like,
Yeah.
give me a challenge.
Yeah.
We
Let's
can
get it
do this.
done.
Let's get it
Let me show you what I can do.
done. So, would you tell us what is a trait that you respect or love in other people?
Yeah, so I really treasure authenticity.
Mm,
When people are genuine and honest, I really appreciate that. I try to be that way in my life. I think that um, sometimes people tell me I'm too nice, and so I've sort of seen that, I think that being genuine means being really nice.
Mm.
And so I think that's part of it, but um, it's also being honest
Yeah.
and telling the truth. And I struggle with telling the truth. I never want to be hurtful towards
Mm.
people, and so I do struggle with that sometimes, but I do treasure honesty and authenticity.
Yeah. Who do you talk to when you get stuck in life? Do you have a go-to?
Go to, well, my husband, of course. I mean, he's my best friend,
Mm.
and my kids, but also people in my community group or Bible studies.
Mm.
I've found, some really great friends there who love and um, respect me and are willing to listen and, not. Um, I mean, they're never judgmental,
Right.
especially about the condition, that I have with alopecia. They're always so kind and loving and just encouraging.
Yeah.
So,
How do you balance life and work? What do you have any self-care practices?
yes. So I am an introvert, and so when I go to work, I come home tired, like mentally and physically some too. But I struggle with I just need some time alone or just at home, and so for me the best practice is to come home and be home in the evenings. I love to work out and run, so I get a lot of I just get built back up by running and being
Mhm.
outside in nature. I don't so much love running on the treadmill, which I have to do sometimes, but it just fills me back up.
Yeah.
So those kind of things, I have to be really careful to protect that time in the evenings.
Mm.
It helps me to recover and just renew and be ready to go the next day.
Yeah.
You know?
The goal of this podcast is to, provide that encouragement,
Right.
empower people. It's okay. We all struggle. Everyone's facing a battle, but you know, we overcome, right?
Right.
One day at a time, and we want to encourage you that you
Yes.
can do it. Would you share some practical tips with us? Either the lessons you've learned along this journey or some practical tips on how you navigated,
Yeah.
alopecia.
Yes. So the things that helped me the most were my faith, and I would read my Bible and pray, and that's been the biggest help for me. Also, just practicing gratitude. Some days you have to just sit down and make a list of the things you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And I know that that was something I had to be intentional with at
Mm.
times. And then also sharing my story. And I actually it was by hearing other stories that gave me the courage to share my story.
Yes.
But they're being vulnerable and honest, really helped me. And sharing my story has just been freeing.
Yes.
So it's been really helpful.
Thank you so much, Gretchen. Thank you for being on this podcast and sharing your story. Absolutely, I agree with that. And that is one of my passions is through this podcast is sharing those stories because that was one of the things that has helped me when I heard someone being honest and
Right.
bold and courageous and shared their struggles. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this too.
Yeah.
And so that is one thing that we want to encourage you when you hear, hopefully this encourages you to share your story because it's definitely freeing. It's
Right.
definitely freeing. And also, the perk is it might encourage someone else,
Right.
empower someone else.
Yeah.
And so, thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Gretchen,
Thanks
for
for having me.
being here. Please, if this content has helped you, please subscribe to the channel and like, comment, and share. Thank you. We'll see you all next time.